Okay, thank you, Yuval. So nice to meet you all. Those who don't know me, I'm Nadav, co-CEO of Step Ahead. Let me share my screen and presentation. Okay, just nod, let me know you see my screen. Yeah, thank you. So as Yuval said, I'm gonna take this because we're kind of zooming in into the organizational world. We started with the process that as a world we're going through as people in this world, and Yuval just laid out the principle of networks. And we know networks and we live with networks, and we have some kind of intuition about how we should behave in networks. But what we're going to see is how can we, if we want to reflect and to really better know our networks, we need some tools to do that. And ONA is the organizational network analysis technology, is a new emerging tools, and Step Ahead is we're developing this platform. And what I want to talk about today is what if we manage to take this automatic network thinking that we have developed over the last couple of years using social platforms and doing networks, take it to the organizational world. And what if we can adopt a different way of looking, a different perspective on our companies, on our organization, and see beyond the organizational chart, see beyond hierarchy and structures. So on the right side of the screen, we see a company, and the numbers in this diagram represents different departments. And the guy or the CEO is the pink 17 here. On the left side, we see a network structure of the same company, the same departments. And I'm going to get back to this slide later on, but think about your company not as a chart, but rather as a network. And this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to embrace and to suggest a new way of analyzing the way our organization works. And as Yuval said, this tool was brought or borrowed from academic research and now gaining more and more presence. Now, look at this beautiful picture, something we might sell as a picture for your living room. But what you see here is technology presenting one big company with lots of people, but in a network structure. So the different colors here represent some kind of categories, belongings to groups. As Yuval said, we tend to belong to people that we are similar or familiar with or part of our group. And technology allows us to create this way of looking on our company. Now, of course, this big picture is not something that we can understand immediately, but we'll get back to that. So today, ONA, organizational network analysis, is a trend that is gaining more and more presence in the organization world. There are 10 to 15 companies, startups, just like Step Ahead, that is developing platforms to analyze networks, organizational networks. In the US, there are 25% of companies using this methodology and platform to understand the way they work and to understand how to improve their work. And just to say that I'm going to leave some time for questions at the end. We haven't heard you so far, so if you have some questions, I'll leave it to the end. One thing that I think comes to mind immediately is how do we map networks? Where's the data coming from? So Stanley Milgram just sent some postcards. That's a nice way to do that, but of course it wouldn't work in our today. So organizational network analysis has some methods. One is called active ONA, which means using surveys to ask questions. Do you know Stanley Milgram? Do you know Yuval? Do I know Jack? Do I know Neely? Okay, do I work with them? And passive ONA. Passive ONA is collecting all kind of network channels, so communication channels. So if I send an email to Yuval, then Yuval is my connection. And if Yuval sends me back, then there is reciprocity, right? He's sending me back the same email. So ONA platforms like Step Ahead collect this kind of data. to create those networks. What are surveys? So I'm sure you all use surveys in different use cases, but network surveys is something a bit different, because when we use network survey, we want to ask different questions on the same people. So you can have 400 people, but these people might have different networks, because one network could be a trust network, another one could be a professional network. So the one thing that really differentiates network surveys from regular surveys is the fact that we ask people about their networks. Like, do you know Sharon? Does Sharon knows me? Do I consult with Sharon? Do I trust Sharon? It's three different questions. Create Sharon, I trust you, of course. It's three different questions, creating three different networks. So there are endless networks we can map and analyze in each organization. And here's the outcome of such an analysis or such a map. So if I'm a leader in a company, I would like to better understand my company, the way my company works. And here's a map. Here's a network organizational map. Now, what do we see here? Every circle is a person, someone working in this company, and these people are connected. They have some kind of connection with each other. Again, could be a professional connection, could be a friendship connection, could be innovation. Maybe they're thinking or promoting the same innovative idea right now, but they have connection. These edges, these lines, these arrows between them could be either one way or two ways, which means that they are mutually connected. And we see that there are different colors. So colors could represent different categories. So if I'm looking at this map, I see different people, but I see that they are somehow connected. Like you see on the bottom of the map, you see the light blue people. They are from the same department. But I could also create different categories, like maybe it could be who sits on the first floor, who sits on the second floor. Could be maybe male, like gender categories. But when we see categories, it means that these people belong to the same department or gender or whatever we chose. And now we see on the right side of the screen, some people which are kind of isolated, not connected. And this means that these people really don't have any connection with others. Okay, which brings questions. We'll come back to that. Okay, another thing I didn't mention is the size of the circle. So if a person is highly connected in the organization, in this network, the circle will be bigger. It means that this is a meaningful person. He's a connector. This guy has lots of connections within the company. Now, the value of the connection is also important, because it could be that I've just had one email with the person, or I could be exchanging emails with this guy, I don't know, 20 times a day. So it's two different values of connections. The values that will be represented by the how thick or thin the arrows are. So the more connection you have, the thicker they are. Now, when you look at this kind of map, you start to understand the way company works, because now you see how really the process of communication and the ideas and the way that people cooperate with each other really works. But we see it without the hierarchy. We see it different now. Now, if I'm a leader and I want to make an impact, where would I go? I would probably like to talk with the connectors, with the people, with the big circles, right? I would like to talk with people that has influence, that has connection. So if I need to reach, I want to create some kind of cooperation with the purple department, I would be looking for the bigger player, for the one that makes connection with other departments as well. So that's a totally different way of looking at my company, at my connection, at my work and my goals. Now you remember this slide. Let's go back to this slide. So now that we understand how a network is represented, then what we have done here, and this is a real use case from a company, a big bank that we've analyzed. And what we've done here is to represent the network between the different departments. If you see lots of people in like several avatars of the same circle, it means that it's a department. So look at this network. Where is the 17? It's not connected. Now, just to explain one thing, you remember that we have different volumes of connections. So one very useful thing that you can do when you analyze your network is to create this kind of aggregation, like to separate between high volume to low volume of connections. And what we've done here is to look on high volume. And when we look at high volume, suddenly we see that the department that is very dominant here is 22. And 17, which is the CEO, it doesn't have any strong connection to the other departments. And also we see that 15 or 14 or 11 doesn't have strong connection with other departments. This is a company that we worked with on improving the way departments cooperate. And the map that the managers in this company saw was, for them, was in like a mirror in their face. They knew they had a problem. Now they have data, they know, they have a map, they have more understanding of what they need to do, who they need to work with. So what we try to do with mapping organizational networks is to help leaders understand the way they can make an impact using their organizational networks. And by doing that, when they learn how to identify, we call it network signatures. So if I'm looking at the network and I see, you remember those isolated persons that we had on the previous slide? So if I see someone who is purple here and is really not connected, and by the way, if I see it changing over time, it means that there is a risk of living here. Someone might be losing connection, and we talk today a lot about connectivity. And if I see someone who is orange and is well connected, this is a person I would like maybe to consider as a talent. So network mapping also allows us to give different kind of parameters to discuss talent promotion and the way that we see people in the company. We can see patterns of innovations, which means that there is diversity. There is enough openness in this department, this purple department, to talk to other departments, because we see that all these people, all these purple colors, they have connection with different departments. And this is, again, you've all talked about the value of diversity in networks. It allows them to bring new ideas. Not all of us say the same, yes, we agree, yes, we agree, yes, we agree. Someone else is coming in and say, listen, I see it differently. This generates innovation. So leaders can use maps to really make an impact. Now, of course, it depends what kind of impact you want to make, but this is what they can see when they see maps. This is a network leadership case study that we've done in a different company, where we analyze the connection between leaders in this company, but in a different network. You remember that I told you it all depends on the question you ask. You can create endless networks. So here we wanted to talk about the value chain. So how do you create value? How do I, as a leader in the company, create value to other leaders? And when we ask these questions, we ask things like, who provides you with simple and efficient deliveries that enable you to increase capacity? This is a scale-up value, okay? Or who adapts and enhances delivery to meet your changing necessities? That's agility. Now, we can create agility networks. It means that these are the people, or scalability network. These are the people that create big scale. And on different networks, people behave differently. So how can Tom Baker, just a random name. It's not a really name, not a real name. How this person can create impact. Now, on his personal report, when he looked at the map, these are the people who needs him to achieve their goals. When we asked, who do you need to achieve your goal? These people identified him. Okay, so they are connected on goals achievement. If you see those double arrows, it means that this guy is someone that Tom needed as well. When you see your personal map, and that's a different presentation of network, but that's a personal map. When I see my map, I see the people I'm connected to, but there are many things I can generate from that. But one important thing I would like you to notice is that I can also see the people in the company that I'm not connected with. And if there is someone who is a big circle, meaning that this person is dominant, is a connector, he has lots of connection, he could be of great value to me. It means that if I need to create an impact, I would like to talk to this person. And maybe this is my next step. Okay. So when we talk about making an impact, we want to use network analysis as a tool to create network leadership, to allow leaders to understand their network within the organization. And really, I think that what we offer here is a different way of thinking about your company. So that's how we use network technology and network mapping. Do we have time for questions here? Nili, Jack, I'm not on the...
Yes, I think you do. You've explained it efficiently, clear, but I'm sure everyone has questions as well.
So if there are questions or anything you would like to say so far, then
we actually had a question that came in already, Nadav, in the chat. If you look at a question from Peter, so his question is, how does this differentiate from what LinkedIn could try to do?
Okay, so LinkedIn, that's a good question. I think LinkedIn is a professional network, but LinkedIn doesn't look within your organization. And also LinkedIn is looking at one kind of network. And I think that the main thing that we do with the AI that we have behind the scene working with this technology is to analyze different kind of networks. Analyzing different kind of networks, meaning that I can use the right map that I need. So LinkedIn gives us a crucial and very important network, but that's just one layer or just one perspective. I hope that was your intention. Okay, so if there won't be any other questions, so we'll have some time later on.
We have one question. I see Dana raising her hand there. So if I could invite Dana to come off mute.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Nadav. I just want to see if I understand correctly. When you're giving this tool, you're giving it to the people, the employees within one organization, and they can mark only the people who are in their own organization? Or can I, as a worker, say, okay, these are my contacts with the people I work with here, but I have also a colleague in a university abroad, and I have Nili, my colleague, who is has her own team. So my network for work issues is larger than my organizational network. So could you clarify that, please?
Yeah, that's, I see someone writing in the chat. It's a good question. So I agree. It's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, so in some cases, most of the use case, most of the practice is that we do look at the organization as a whole and kind of as closed whole. But you are right. But in some cases, the first thing we need to do is to establish the network, to establish this universe of what is the limits of the network. And in some cases, the limits are not only within the organization. I can tell of a case we're dealing with right now that is, it is one organization, but they have lots of different big units, okay, sub companies. And what they said, the first thing we want to do is to to map the innovation network. And the innovation network doesn't stop at one, at one unit. We want to look, and so the first thing we do is ask you about people that are maybe not part of this organization. Then we'll create the map, the bigger map. So this is kind of endless universe that you can create. But I think, by the way, I think this is one of the main interesting trends or direction that ONA is taking now, because it becomes more and more, I think, more and more common that we see companies working like, not only as a closed unit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no questions. I'm sure, Nadav, you'll be more than happy to take questions at the end as well and stay on. And of course, you can always reach out to Nadav, or if you have, you can pop it in the chat. If we don't get to it today, they will be taking time to answer any of your queries after as well. Okay. Isn't that right, Nadav?
Right. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so why don't I dive right in, Nili? Should I dive right in right now?
Yes, I think so.